When it comes to pain, movement is simply a catalyst, in my opinion. As in, if you do the movement right, well, and just perfectly executed, the brain will realize that it's good and pain can dissipate and it can help manage that. But even if you're just 1 degree off with the movement that the brain does not like, as in you get a negative input, then movement is a catalyst to make things even worse. So it could trigger the brain to see that exercise as a threat and can make it more angry, and you'll be sore for a longer period of time. So pushing through pain is typically not a good idea in those cases. And this is typically why I don't give people a set amount of reps that they need to do or how tense they need to do it, because the answer is it depends. There's not one right exercise for X amount of time, because the thing is, if you're hurting, it could change from day to day, especially if you're hypermobile and have EDS. Then your body's constantly shifting with every single rep. And so it's not consistent in how you should be doing that exercise every single time. So try to keep that into consideration with almost every single movement that we're going to be doing from here on out in my channel. And today's topic is talking about the pelvis. So when we're talking about SI joint pain, lower back pain, knee pain, foot pain, pelvic floor instability, lack of core awareness, a lot of the times it happens because we are just disconnected from where our pelvis is in space. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So pelvic awareness is going to be learning how to feel what your pelvis is doing, as in this section over here, that are you able to tuck and untuck and feel where neutral actually is. And so this is usually where I start my clients when they have a lot of lower back pain or SI joint dysfunction, is because they have no idea what the pelvis is actually doing. And many times you can't even feel if it's rotating or not. So a lot of times we're moving with the entire spine and not the pelvis on its own. And it's just this disconnect that the brain will have a hard time understanding what the rest of the body needs to do to respond. And so just practicing, can you soften, relax, allow your belly to just drop to the floor? And this is what we call extension of the pelvis. So we have pelvic extension, and then this is pelvic flexion. So flexion is when you tuck the pelvis under, like a scared puppy tucking the tailbone between the legs, and then extending is arching from the lower back and pelvis to open to the top. And so this tailbone flips up towards the ceiling and then tucks under towards the floor. So learning how to be able to feel this, and segmentally over time you're going to be able to tuck each vertebra all the way up throughout the rest of the spine. So you can break it down into sections by just learning how to be able to gently tuck, untuck, and then the better you get at it, the more you'll be able to do. And just breathing through this, as in slowly, deep breath in, exhale, allow your body to sink into the floor into this natural extended position. If you go too far into extension, you'll most likely feel a pinch in your lower back and it's hurting because it's compressing the discs in the spine. And if you're overly flexed, if your body's sensitive to it, you'll probably feel like a tugging feeling, even pulling down to the tailbone, hamstring, SI joint and stuff. So never go into the range where it actually hurts. You want to play with the range that your body feels comfortable in. And if only a millimeter back and forth is all you can do, that's where you want to stay. And the goal is to relax every other part of your body when you're doing this. And so it's not an exercise that you're tensing muscles, and in the beginning you'll most likely feel that. You'll most likely be trying to squeeze and pull and like pull back. Try not to actually engage anything. The more you do this, the more you actually almost want to feel like no muscles are working, but your body is naturally just breathing through this space and your pelvis is naturally moving on its own. So the softer you can tell your brain to do these and the less muscles are tensing and engaging, the better your nervous system will learn how to be able to let that tension go, especially when your body is hurting. And the tough part is when you hurt, it's even harder to let go because everything's going to be guarded and tense. And that's what you need to tell your brain to be able to soften through. Forcing through that is usually going to create more issues if your nervous system is already sensitive to more tension. And so this is different for everyone. Some people more tension is good, as in when they is when they brace, they tighten their body, the body senses it as safe. But if you're already doing that and you don't even know that you're tensing and it's hurting, then relaxation is most likely necessary. Does that make sense? So we're talking to your brain here. We're not telling your muscles what to do. We're telling your brain to be able to communicate to those muscles to tell it how to engage or let go when necessary. This is the awareness that people typically don't think about when they're trying to execute movements, especially when their body is hurting and their nervous system is already overtaxed. And so in order to tone it down, teach your brain, teach your body that movement without tension is actually okay, that deemed safe, then the body can let that tension go and you'll feel less pain over time. Now we're going to take that same principle of the pelvic tilt into a lying down one. And this one usually is a little bit more difficult to be able to feel that pelvis gently tuck, and as in rolling under, and then untucking as in extending. So when you extend that pelvis, you'll feel your lower back gently lift off the ground and then your tailbone push towards the ground. And so there should be a little space and arch in that lower back. And then when you tuck it gently, as in when the tailbone rolls back and under, your lower back flattens to the ground and you typically can engage the lower belly muscles a little bit. So you want to feel the deep pelvis here working a little bit. Again, not tensing. It's literally just rolling that pelvis under and there will be a soft engagement in the lower belly. And so untucking to extend, relax into the body, and notice you're not extending as hard as you can that you're creating compression. It's just a gentle roll back, gentle tuck under. And the more you can actually feel your hip open, so your knees are kind of pointing out towards the pinky toes, your hip is open, the body's relaxed, you tuck the pelvis under and untuck. So this is all we're playing around with, is just rolling through that pelvis back and forth. Nice and slow, connect your breath with it every time. So as you inhale, allow your pelvis to roll back, and then exhale, allow your pelvis to roll forward. Because when you exhale, the belly can naturally engage. You can feel the core working a little bit. If you can't feel it, that's fine. The idea is to build that connection over time. So if you're finding it very difficult to actually feel your pelvis tuck and untuck in the supine position without tensing, then go back to the quadruped position. Sitting is another position that you can do as well. So just have your feet nice and relaxed, and you can have a taller chair if necessary. And the same pattern is to just teach your body, can you tuck your pelvis under and then untuck to going back, and just feel the connection from your tailbone to your top belly, that as you tuck, the tailbone rolls under, the belly softens, and then when you untuck, it lengthens and creates space and the spine opens. So as the spine sits on top of that pelvis, and so the head sits on top of the spine, which sits on top of the pelvis, and so whatever your pelvis does, the rest of your spine and your head is going to have to respond to it. And so many times we're moving the entire body because the whole spine is actually disconnected, because we don't know how to segmentally stabilize the head, spine, and pelvis in 3 different sections. We're controlling all of them together instead of just one section at a time. Can you move your pelvis? Can you move the spine? And can you move the head? This is the awareness that we want to slowly start building over time, but it starts from the pelvis itself. When you can control this, then we can work on controlling this and then controlling this as well. I have separate videos for that later on. So now the final step is to learn where your pelvis is when you're standing. And so I have a neutral posture video. I'll tag it in the links underneath and above here too. But the main thing is, one, you want to find the foot, the tripod. You're going to gently soften the pelvis and you're going to lengthen up your upper body. So not squeezing back. Literally just think that you're gently lifting your collarbones up towards the ceiling. Soften the neck, as in glide the neck back a little bit. And none of this should be tense. We relax through the entire lengthening process as you have that stable pelvis. Now from here, make sure you have even weight on both your toes and your heels. Most likely you have to feel that you're tilting forward a little bit so your toes gently push to the ground, but the heel doesn't lift. All right. So from here, Find the toes, as in tilt forward a little bit, toes and heels flat, soft pelvis, and then from here, now we're gonna gently tuck your pelvis forward, as in roll that pelvis, and then gently untuck and extend. Gently tuck pelvis and untuck. And start trying to notice, are you tensing muscles as you're doing this? And if you are, that's okay, but noticing is the first step. The more you do this, the more you want to tell your body, oh, tension is actually not necessary. I can teach my body how to be able to start letting this tension go and just soften through that. Work your breath through it, as in when you breathe in. Work your breath with this, as in just finding a neutral breath. It's not inhaling, exhaling every time you move. It's just to be able to find that natural flow where you're not holding your breath, you're not tensing any muscles, you're just teaching your pelvis how to be able to glide and unglide. And the more you start doing this, the more you start seeing that your body starts actually relaxing. Those muscles start learning how to be able to disengage because you're not tense doing any of these. If you can do it right and relaxed, you can do this throughout the entire day. But if you do feel like you're tensing, you're making things worse, you're aggravating it, that means take a break, come back later, let your body recalibrate, let it relax before you start moving again. Word of caution, this is usually very, very difficult, especially if you have hypermobility and EDS and stuff like that. So give yourself the opportunity to breathe, relax, find your body's point where it starts softening, and then gently move from there. I know it's very tedious, I'm saying this a lot, and I have clients that's literally been with me for like 3-4 years and they're still learning this process. I still have to practice myself all of the time to truly build that intuition to teach the body how to let go. This is truly where I feel the next step of movement is to learn to realize when you have tension so that you can learn to let it go. That's the deep roots of yoga, of Tai Chi, of the internal arts of teaching your body how to be able to let go of tension when it's not necessary to have that tension. And I personally feel is because we're so tense on a daily basis, we don't even know that our body is holding on to tension. Hence, this becomes even more important to practice these softening movements to teach your body how to breathe along with that pelvis moving so gently that there's hardly any tension in it. And the better you get at that, the more those muscles will learn how to relax. Hopefully this gives you something to think about. I don't care how long my videos are now. I'm just there to try and entice a little bit more of awareness of what our bodies are actually doing. Hopefully this does just that. And I'll see you in the next video. Andy Shea from Movement Reborn. Peace.